Hey guys, so I just got these batteries from Battery Hookup. These are the 12 volt LTO batteries out of a BMW. And I had watched David Paz's video on how to hook them up and everything, and that was great. And then I saw that these came in a case. So I spoke with David, and he said that that was the way that he had gotten them from Battery Hookup. And Battery Hookup had taken those ones apart already to test them and make sure that everything was good on them and to see what was going on. So he didn't realize that this is how these came. So I was on their Facebook page. I saw Bill had posted a couple of pictures on how to pull them apart. So I just wanted to go through how I pulled them apart here. So what I did here, I tried to pry it apart, and this is after I actually cut it, but I tried to pry it apart at the seam here, and it wouldn't go. It's very well glued together, or melted together. I'm not sure. But anyway, so I used my my Dremel multi-tool here, and I just cut around here. You could probably use a handsaw or a Sawzall or something similar. I just cut all the way around, making sure not to go in too deep. So once I got it cut all the way around, I was just able to pry it and get any spots that I hadn't cut. And I was able to pull this whole thing right out. So I've already loosened this up and everything. I've already pulled it apart, but I just wanted to show you guys exactly how I did it here. So I was making sure not to cut too deep. There are some leads right here, but they're really probably about a ½ inch in. There are the bus bars that come up here. I did score that one just a hair with the saw, but that's not a big deal. And then on the other side, probably about probably an 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/4 inch in. There are some more leads up here, so you really don't want to cut too deep with them, but 1/8 of an inch is fine. So then we have, there's this nut here, which I already loosened up, 10 millimeter. All right, so now I got those two loose. This one has a notch on it, so it just slides right off. And there is a lead here attached to this side. This is the contactor, or the relay here. And then in here, there's just a set of leads that go into the top. So we'll just pull those out. All right, and there we have it. So this is what I saw in David's video, and that is all accessible. So this whole thing just pops right out very cleanly and everything. You can use the case. It's pretty solid, really. And it's got this little bus bar on here, and another terminal on the other side. So definitely can be put back together, glued back together if need be, if you want to use it. So yeah, let me figure out how we're going to use this now. I hooked this up to my power supply before, and one of them was at a very low voltage, like 1 volt or something. And so I hooked it up to the power supply, and it went up to about 5 volts, and then I heard a thunk, and the voltage went away. So that was the contactor activating and shutting off for some reason. So I'm gonna try to bypass that and get these charged up. So just testing this one here, I got 1.4 volts, and I haven't opened the other one up yet. You can see it sitting there. So we'll see what that one's at. Could be at a higher voltage, but I'm gonna hook this up to my power supply tonight and see if I can get it to charge up, and then we'll go from there. So I've got it hooked up to the power supply now, and I'm charging it maybe ½ an amp. I have it set up to 15 volts, and so yeah, it's jumped from 1.4 up to 7 volts real fast, and then now it's slowing down a little bit. So we'll get this charged and see what we can do with it. So I stopped charging it for a minute here. I just opened up the BMS. Just pulling this out because we're not going to use it. These are LTO batteries, and I'm not really worried about what'll happen if they over discharge. So anyway, these have a couple bus bars on them. There's a shunt on the BMS, and then I think this whole thing just comes right out. So that's the BMS there. It's got a built-in shunt, and I don't know too much more about it other than I can't use it, so we're gonna leave it there. All right, so I pulled most of the leads on here. Took the tape off of this one just to kind of see what it was and everything. Looks like this white one that plugs into the top was probably the BMS leads. There's probably a couple of temperature sensors in there. The thing that interests me the most on this is the relay. So this, the wiring diagram here shows normally open, A and B, so positive is on this side, negative is on that side. 2 and 3 are this post and that post, and so that closes. So I'm going to try to rewire this just to activate it with a switch and see how much power it pulls, and it could be fun to use that for something. All right, so I just wired in this switch here, and I wired it in as per the wiring diagram, and it kind of made a little bit of noise but didn't really do anything. And I was like, that's weird. So beep. So it showed this side A being positive and that side being negative. So I would have thought that orange would be positive, but that's the way it showed it. So I just wired it like that, didn't do anything. So then I switched it around, and I heard the relay click when I hooked it up, and then it stayed latched. So this is a latching relay. Applied power to it, positive and negative, and it latched itself closed. So I would assume that if I switch the power around, because that's the only other way to do it, that it will open. So I'm going to try that here and see what happens. All right, so I've just switched the leads around. I haven't turned the switch on yet. Now, as you can see, there's continuity across the relay. So here we go. Let me flip the switch. And I just heard a click. Let's see if it's pulling any power. I'm going to leave the switch on here. Well, let me turn it off for a sec. Put it on DC. Oh, I'm going to switch it off. I'm going to zero this out. See if it's pulling any power. Ooh, so it is 1.43 amps. So it appears, and I saw Bill mention this, that it was pulling 1.4 amps. So this is a momentary relay. So it needs a momentary positive or negative switched between the two to activate or deactivate. It's not a relay that you would leave on. So that being said, putting a switch on it and turning the switch on and off, that does not work. So I'm going to see if I can find a different way of doing this, but otherwise I'm just going to leave it, just bypass it, because I don't really need it. But that's really cool that it does that. So yeah. All right, so just pulled the relay out. It's a latching relay, and so you apply momentary power, positive and negative, and that latches it open, and then you switch that around, so negative and positive, and then that latches it closed. If you keep power applied to it, it pulls 1.4 amps, which seems like way too much. So my guess would be that the BMS has some sort of a relay that just momentarily powers this up and either closes or opens it. So this could be used with another relay, like a momentary relay or a momentary switch, which actually I do have. I have a key switch that's momentary, so maybe I'll use that and see if I can get this thing to work. Okay, so I've had this old key switch, actually it's brand new, but had it sitting around for a while here. So this has, it's a momentary switch, and it's got two normally open contacts. So you turn it one way and it closes, and then you turn it the other way and it closes that side. So, when you let go, it rests in the middle position, which leaves both contacts normally open. So I think this will work perfectly. So I'm going to try to wire this in here. All right, I did it. So I had two of these key switches, and I had to stack them. I had to stack two sets of contact, or another set of contacts on top of the other one. Luckily these ones are stackable. So what I did here is I have it. Let's see if I can hold the camera and do this at the same time. Click. So that's off, on, off, on, and it's just momentarily applying power. So it switches. Doesn't have that 1.4 amp draw continuously because there's no power going to it continuously. So that is pretty cool. So I'm going to try to wire this in. That way I can turn the battery on and off with a key switch. And my kids can't use the power wheels when I don't want them to, like at night. All right, well, that's all I'm going to do for tonight here, guys. I am still charging it, about 3.5 amps. I'm up to 13 volts now. Everything seems fine. I'm going to let it charge for a little while longer. I'll probably turn it off before I go to bed. But yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to see what I can do with this and the power wheels. And maybe crack open the other one and try to play with that one as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.